Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's yet again Harry Brailsford from SMB Nation. My goodness gracious mercy me. 3 webinars over 3 days. Who would have thought it? So here we are at noon Pacific, and that'd be 3 p.m. on the East Coast and well into the dinner hour over in Europe, and good morning over to Australia. Appreciate you joining us. This is the end of a 3-part series on Windows 10. In a moment, we'll hand off to Grant, who can do the heavy lifting today. I'm out and about running around in Seattle, and Grant, I'll have you know, sir, I'm just right outside the Space Needle. So everybody kind of knows what that is. I'm over in that part of town. But with that said, we certainly appreciate you attending the past few days. A little bit of housekeeping. Next Monday, we're in New York. If you'd like to attend our workshop with Grant in New York, that's next Monday. The full day, the 29th, so you can go to smbnation.com and select the roadshow advertisement over on the right to participate in that. Then in early March, mid-March, we're off to Atlanta and Chicago, and you can sign up for those, of course. And then we're onward and upward up until about June 30th. So that's 9 cities between now and June 30th. You have a chance, by the way, to see Jenny in Dallas at the Channel Pro Roadshow next week in Dallas. So Jenny will be there in the booth, and you have a chance to chat it up with her and visit our friends Channel Pro over channelpronetwork.com and sign up for that. With that said, that is the housekeeping. So Grant, how are you doing, sir? It's been a heck of a week. You launched the tour on Tuesday in Redmond. You've spoken every day. You're speaking tonight at the West Sound Technology Professionals Group in Paulsboro, Washington. How you holding up, man?
I'm having fun, Harry. This has been a fantastic week. I'm really looking forward to New York, flying out of Seattle on Sunday afternoon, and Monday is going to be a fantastic day. Today is going to be great. This is a repeat to a certain degree of a webinar that we did back in November, I believe, and I've tweaked a few things here from that based on feedback. We did a couple of other webinars, as Harry mentioned earlier, this week, the last 2 days on Windows 10, and today we're going to cover Windows 10 and Office 365.
Okay, well, sir, I'm handing the talking stick off to you. Let's rock and roll.
Sounds good. Okay, first of all, just a couple of housekeeping things. There is a Q&A section in the online meeting, and I have that up in front of me. Feel free to inject questions, and I'll take them as I can and as they are appropriate. And if you don't have a, if you have a question, I can answer that at the end for sure. So if I don't get to your question, be patient. I'll get to all the questions at the end of the webinar if I don't answer them along the way. And we just had a question come in, which is a great one. Will the roadshows go beyond kind of normal level 100 conversations and be more in the 200 or 300 level? One of the things that I asked as a speaker was that I be given a little more time in some of the sessions. So I'm actually doing 4 sessions this time on the roadshow, and most of those are more than the kind of standard hour worth of time, and I do a lot more actual demoing. So Intel was kind enough to give us some machines to bring. So for example, we'll do an end-to-end Windows 10 deployment where we literally pull a machine out of the box and boot it from scratch, join it to Azure AD, apply some of the new Win 10 deployment packages to it. So yes, we definitely get into more technical, more training than just overview stuff, and so it's been a fantastic tour so far. We've only had 1 event, but the feedback was awesome. And so if you can make it out, definitely do that.
Grant, if you don't mind, and then I'll forever hold my peace, but I also wanted to emphasize that it is richer, deeper content. So last year, the basic premise of the tour was Hello World, meet Office 365. Well, everybody's met Office 365, and quite frankly, they've met Windows 10. So this year, it's not only more actionable, as you suggest, but we have all new topics. I mean, basically, we have security with Office 365 from a compliance point of view and threat analytics and so on. So we, dude, we can go as deep as they want to go.
And one of my favorite parts about the Roadshow, and I definitely want to dive into our presentation for this hour, but is that it's interactive. I really like being in person and having that kind of interaction so we can really take that conversation anywhere that the attendees want to go. So we can dive down particular paths and make sure that people leave with the information they need. And for those of you who may have seen me before, I'm also pretty good at keeping people from railroading the conversation down some place that's only particular to that one person, and then I can take that conversation offline. So let's jump into today's presentation without any further ado. And first of all, as Harry said, everybody pretty much knows what Office 365 is, but I want to make sure just that we have some basic groundwork here. So Office 365 encompasses kind of some core IT services that would be Exchange for corporate email, Skype for business, which is online conferencing, instant messaging, Presence, which is the ability to see when someone's online, even if they're mobile, video and audio presentations, screen sharing, all of that sort of thing, whiteboarding, polls, all of that is built into Skype for Business. SharePoint, which is for online file sharing and collaboration, building out intranets as well as sharing with external users, vendors, and customers in a secure way, has things like workflow to automate business processes, and file sync so you can have your files on your local PC, take those with you wherever you go. OneDrive for Business is really the commercial edition of OneDrive, so cloud storage, get about 1 terabyte per user. That's essentially my documents in the cloud or your desktop in the cloud, depending on where you shove all your personal files for work. And then mobile, of course, we have Office Mobile across all platforms. So if you have an Office 365 subscription that entitles you to it, you can have create as well as read capabilities on Android, iOS, Windows Phone, tablets, PCs. Really, you get that full experience across all those different devices. I have another slide I didn't include in this deck that's because Office 365 is growing continuously. So these are the core and basic things that you'll find in Office 365, but there's a huge amount of other functionality that's built in there, and it continues to grow over time. And then, of course, the Office Suite is in most of the Office 365 plans, so you have Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all of those installed on your local PCs. In fact, you can install it on up to 5 devices with most of the plans. So if you have multiple devices, you can use Office on all those different things. So kind of the basic conversation around why Office 365. Again, we'll just go over this quickly so we have a standard foundation for everybody here. Current versions of things. So Office 2016 is out. If you have an Office 365 subscription, almost everybody has access now to upgrade from what was Office 2013 to 2016. You have some control over that, so you aren't necessarily forced to upgrade to the new version. In terms of server infrastructure, all of that is upgraded by Microsoft, so Exchange is always up to date. You don't have to buy servers and run those, maintain them, fix them. 24/7 support is available for administrators under most of the plans. The support contracts definitely vary. There's also support from partners out there, so look for a Microsoft Cloud Services Provider or a CSP who can also help you with support. Compliance, if you're in an industry where there's regulation, where you need to maintain HIPAA compliance or Sarbox compliance or any of the other things that are out there, all the way up to and including government compliance, Office 365 has solutions for that and has the certifications and agreements that are needed to accomplish all of that. You can access files and services from anywhere. It's so seamless. I work between many different devices, and I'm mobile a lot, and so I always have access to my files. I always have access to my services. You know, I have internet on my cell phone, so it's very easy for me. If I'm in the car, on a bus, a train, a plane, I can pretty much be connected anytime, anywhere. And if I'm offline, I still have access to my files and my Office programs, and when I go back online, those all synchronize up with our corporate Office 365. Skype for Business is one of my favorite kind of newer tools, although it's not new. It's been around for a long time. Was previously known as Office Communication Server and then Lync, and now Skype for Business. Great solution for doing conferencing, instant messaging, and presence is a really fantastic thing in an organization where people are mobile or in different locations. In particular, even within a building, you can see when someone's at their desk, if they're in a meeting, very easily inside of the headers of emails and kind of all over the place in SharePoint. You really know whether you can reach out and have an instant message or a phone call with that person. That's incredibly useful and saves a lot of time. And then, of course, we have real-time collaborative editing. So with Office Online, which is the web-based versions of most of the Office products, and even with some of the locally installed products, you can actually work on documents together. Even if you're in different locations, you can be editing the same document at the same time and see each other's changes and interact with each other. So you could be working on maybe a contract or a proposal or something and be across the world from each other and see what everybody's doing, so you're not limited to, oh gosh, so-and-so's using that document and I have to wait until they're done before I can touch it. Okay, so Windows 10 and Office 365, they are definitely better together. Office 2016 and Windows 10 are the most complete solution for doing things. They've really integrated productivity enhancements into Windows 10, and then of course Office has always been our you know, rock steady productivity tool, having the features and functions, and really they worked a lot on enhancing, bringing those features and functions forward and making it easier for us to use those. Windows Hello is a new feature in Windows 10. It does require device support, but it is a way to sign into your device using biometrics. So it essentially can see you using the technology that came out of the Xbox Kinect to recognize your face, and it's very good at recognizing a true 3D face, so you can't hold a picture up and have it recognize you. It does it in a much more complex and detailed way. It's actually an enterprise level biometric security, and that would sign you into your PC, and once you're signed in to Windows, you will also be signed into Office 365, so you don't have to have multiple passwords. In fact, with Windows Hello, you don't even, I mean, you have a password as a backup, but you don't have to use one. If you don't have a device that supports Windows Hello, you can still experience the single sign-on where you sign into Windows, and then your Office 365 will sign you in as well, because you can use the same identity for both. Cortana, I'm a die-hard Windows Phone user, have been for a very long time, actually since before Windows Phone, back in the Windows Mobile days, and I love Cortana on my phone. I use it all the time, in particular to set reminders, get directions, track my flights and other travel. I love to travel by mass transit, and so Cortana will actually tell me, in order to get to this meeting, you need to take this bus and you need to leave your office now in order to catch that bus, or they'll tell me when the last bus is leaving for me to get to work, for example. Now Cortana has been brought to the desktop, and so we have that in Windows 10. And it integrates with Office 365, and I'll show you a little bit about more about what that does in terms of lighting up features and functionalities. Sway is a new product for Windows 10, and it's a way to create beautiful and interactive stories or presentations that morph across devices. In the webinar, I don't really have a way to show you multiple devices and how it transfers, but essentially you build the presentation, and I'll show you what one of those looks like in a few minutes. And then if someone plays that presentation on, say, a tablet device or a phone, it's going to adapt the sizing, it's going to adapt the layout to work for that device, much like we talked in one of the previous webinars about Continuum and how Windows 10 will transition from being a desktop or laptop OS to being a tablet OS when you remove the keyboard or fold the keyboard back behind the tablet device in one of those hybrid devices. It will ask you, and then you can have it do it automatically from then forward if you like, if you want to move into tablet mode, and it changes the way you interact with the device to be made for your fingers. Touch-friendly apps, so this goes along with the continuum concept of transitioning you from working maybe at a desk or at a coffee shop to working on the go. Most of the Windows apps they follow this continuum concept, and they transition into tablet mode when you, again, detach the screen from the keyboard. I see a few questions here, so I'm going to look at those real quick. First one for us little guys buying for a small office or home office business and getting a 5-pack, do you get a terabyte per user there too? Generally speaking, I believe all the plans include a terabyte of storage for your OneDrive for Business, which is your personal. It's not shared. It's your kind of your personal repository for your My Documents and things like that. And then depending on the plan you get, SharePoint then becomes your repository for kind of common documents that you might be sharing among other people in your organization. And you can also set up secure sharing with people outside your organization, like customers or vendors, through that. And the other part of that question was about advanced features. The Office 365 plans vary greatly. If you go to the office.com website, you'll be able to navigate first between home and business plans. I absolutely recommend that even if you're a one-person business, that you look at the business plans. The home plans really truly are designed for home use, and the commercial plans are designed for businesses, and they have a wide range of business plans, some that are just the Office applications, and then some that include all the way up to advanced features like a PBX system that allows you to do phone calls and things like that through the Office 365 suite through Skype for Business. Another question here, I'll take a couple of these real quick and then move forward. Somebody's asking, what can't you do if you're using Windows 10 Home with Office 365? I do have some slides a little bit later that talk about differences in additions. I don't specifically go into the integration with Office 365, but as far as I know, there's no limitation between an edition of Windows 10 and Office 365. Though if you're running a business, you should be using Windows 10 Pro or above. You really shouldn't run a business on Windows 10 Home because there are some features in Windows 10 not specifically related to Office 365 that will definitely add value to you. And one of the great things about Windows 10 is you can actually change editions just by entering a new product key in. So you don't have to go through a complete reinstall. If you bought Home and you're thinking, gosh, now Grant's told me I should really be running Pro, go buy a Pro license, you type in the key, reboot your machine, and in a few minutes you'll be on Pro. You don't even have to be connected to the internet to do that, which is fantastic. Okay, so we'll move on. I know there's a few questions hanging out there. We'll have time for those, and I may pick them up along the way here as well. So Cortana integration, I'm going to go ahead and build this slide out for us here. And basically Cortana integration with Office 365 is something that users have to turn on. So we'll talk in a minute about privacy. In order to enable the functionality of Cortana on Windows 10 to use data that's inside of Office 365, your Office 365 administrator has to go and enable that. It's disabled by default. You have to set up Windows 10's Universal Mail, the Mail Windows app, not Outlook, and the Calendar app. You can also use Outlook, which is what I use as my mail and calendar application, but you have to turn on and sign in to the mail and calendar apps on Windows 10 in order for Cortana to be able to access that information. This is a Windows 10 only feature, so if you're on Windows 8.1 or previous, you can't do this. Obviously, Cortana is only on Windows 10. Some examples of how this might help you. If you're in an organization and say you're preparing for a meeting, you can search Office 365 right from Cortana, right from Windows 10, and get information about the meeting that you're working on. You might look up information about the people who are going to be coming to the meeting and see documents that they've been working on recently, or you might gather information about them if you've never met them before and they've completed their profile. You can actually see details about those folks right from within Windows 10, but pulled from Office 365. And then, as I mentioned, Cortana will also give you reminders, like if you have to travel somewhere, Cortana on your Windows 10 PC or device will pop up and tell you, hey, it's time to leave because it's going to take you an hour to drive there. Here are some screenshots to show you a little bit about how we turn these features on. This is the Office 365 Admin Center. You get there by signing into portal.office.com, and obviously if you have administrator rights. In the upper left-hand corner, let me get my little pointer here, right here, you can see the app launcher, the little grid. When you click on that, you'll see a list of apps that you have access to. If you're an administrator, one of those will be the admin app, and that will take you to this admin center. Along the left-hand side here, we have a bunch of different options that we can choose to administer, and one of those is Cortana. So you select Cortana, and then there's a simple on-off switch. By default, this will be off. You flip that to on, and then now all your users can access their Office 365 data through Cortana on Windows 10. And on a mobile phone, Windows Phone, this is what Cortana looks like. And so Cortana would pop up on the right-hand side here. This is information about a flight, so it's telling me, hey, my flight's on time, it leaves in 2 hours and 10 minutes, there's heavy traffic from my location to the airport, and it's going to take me 49 minutes to get there, so I better leave, otherwise I might miss my flight. On the left-hand side here, it's giving me information for the day, so it's telling me, hey, it's going to be 78 degrees and sunny in Seattle, which does happen periodically during the summertime. And then it's also giving me information about my calendar, as well as giving me some options down below to interact with that meeting. So that's a Cortana feature on Windows Phone, but very cool, and you have similar things on Windows 10. So here's Windows 10 on the right-hand side here. I'll grab my pointer again. You can see it's telling me, hey, it's time to leave for a meeting or whatever it might be. I could tap on that and get directions as well. And then over here is some of the information that Cortana is surfacing about a particular individual in the organization. So Garth is the Director of Marketing. It's showing me a little bit about his calendar. It's showing me documents he has shared. So I can really gather information about people in the organization. In the SMB, especially in the small business, that particular feature may not make much sense to you, but this is just an example of how Cortana can reach in and grab data out of Office 365, surface it on Windows 10, and make it available to you. For mid-sized businesses and larger, this is incredibly useful in terms of the people search side of things. But there's lots of data that we have in there, and so this is a great way to surface that knowledge across the organization, even if you only have a few people in the organization. We use it extensively in our company. We're a cloud services provider, a Microsoft CSP. We work with Microsoft Azure Office 365 all the time. And so we can not only see expertise for particular employees or engineers, but we can also see knowledge. So if I write a document about a particular technology, anyone in the organization, as long as they have permission to, would be able to query that knowledge even inside the document right from Windows 10. And so if they're looking for information on Azure or Office 365, they'd be able to see results from those documents right inside of Windows 10, which is incredibly valuable. They don't have to even reach out to me to ask, but they also would see that I was the author of that information, and so then they could contact me using Presence. They could see if I'm online, maybe start an instant messaging conversation with me and say, hey, I was looking at this document you wrote and I have some questions. Windows 10 and privacy. This is an incredibly good conversation. There was a lot of concern, especially early on, about privacy. Still a huge conversation going on where people are talking about, what's right and what's wrong, what do we want to allow and not allow in terms of people accessing our information. And here are a few bullet points. I'll absolutely make clear I don't work for Microsoft. I don't own any Microsoft stock except maybe through a mutual fund somewhere. I'm a completely independent representative, but I know for a fact that Microsoft does not spy. Friends that I know who work at Microsoft, people I've interacted with, and Microsoft's clear and transparent policies, they just don't do that. They're not in that business. They're in the business of making great software and great services and mobile devices and things like that. Snooping makes a great headline. We all know that there's some sensational stuff out in journalism, and so if you see something come out about any technology, really, you definitely want to do your homework and see, is this valid? Is there something behind it? Everybody's concerned about security and privacy. It's one of the reasons on our roadshow I'm doing an entire session on Office 365 security. If you attend that session, I guarantee 100% you will walk away from that knowing that Office 365 is secure. When you see the level that they go to protect customer data, protect their services, it is just absolutely unbelievable things that I never dreamed of that they do to make sure that everything is safe. Microsoft's very clear about their privacy policies, so there's a URL there. They publish them. In Cortana, as I mentioned, Office 365 integration is off by default. Anytime you interact with Cortana, during setup to, for example, grant information to your calendar and turn on all these cool features and things, it'll tell you, we're going to access this. This is what you're agreeing to. But really, they're just doing any of that integration is there to provide services to you, not to mine your data or provide it to some third party in any way. And they provide clear instructions for settings on how to turn things off. So if you don't want that particular information to be integrated, it's very easy to go and turn those things off. So, again, very transparent, and we take security very seriously. I take personal security very seriously, and I don't have any problems with the way that Microsoft does things, and I'm very informed. It's very easy for me to pick and choose and make good decisions about what I'm going to share and what I'm not going to share. So I wanted to jump into a little bit of a demo here. So let me stop my presentation and show you a few things here. So hopefully everybody can see my screen here. I've got a bunch of reminders popping up from my calendar. If for some reason you can't see the Windows desktop, jump into the question and answer piece of the software and definitely let me know about that so we can make sure that everybody can see what's happening here, because there's some fairly neat things. So first I'm going to show you Sway. I've got it pinned to my taskbar down on the bottom, but if you don't have it down there, which you probably don't, you click on Start and search for Sway, and Sway will come up for you, assuming that you have it installed, of course, but it's included in Office 365. So these are some example and demo things that everybody gets them, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but just to give you an example of what these things look like. So Sway is actually the editor that you use, much like you might use PowerPoint for creating a presentation. And then we can preview what that presentation looks like. So here I'm on a Windows 10 device. I'm actually on a Surface Pro 3, and if I were to touch on one of these, I'm not sharing my Surface screen. I've got it hooked up to an external monitor, but if I were to touch one of these images, I would then be zoomed into that image, and I could look at the image in more detail. And the way Sway works, it's really geared towards touch screens, but it does work in other ways. So there's a play button at the top. So if I hit play on here, it's going to bring it full screen, and then I can scroll through the different panels of Sway. So you can see it's kind of this continuous approach. It's not turning pages, and things kind of expand out and contract. And again, there's text, there's pictures and graphics I can put in here. And if I change my screen size, which I don't have the ability to show in the webinar, you would actually see this presentation transform to fit and be more readable on that smaller device. And if I'm on a touchscreen, on a phone and looking at this, I'd be able to tap on the picture and see that image all by itself without the overlaid text, and zoom in on it and really explore that a little bit more. So they put together some of these examples. It's a really, really nice way to present things. It reminds me actually of another way in which I was surprised by Windows 10 and Cortana. I went on vacation recently to Disneyland with my family, and when I got home, I think it was the next day or maybe a couple of days later, I got a little alert that popped up that said, "We've built an album out of your recent trip." And I was like, what does that mean? So I clicked on it, and sure enough, from my Windows phone, I had taken a bunch of pictures while we were there, and those are synchronized with my personal OneDrive, and it recognized that there was a bunch of pictures taken. I'm not sure exactly what it looks for, but it grouped them all into a nice album display, so I was able to go and look at the pictures from our trip, and I didn't have to put it together. The Windows 10 and Cortana did it for me, which was really neat and a nice surprise, because I usually take a ton of pictures and then I go back and look at them periodically, but I'm not very good at organizing those things. One of the other functions that you can use inside of Cortana, and I showed how to expand Cortana. By default, Windows 10 will have Cortana expanded like this big search bar there. I prefer actually to have it just the icon and not take up that much of my taskbar space, because I tend to have a lot of things open, but you can have it either way. When you go into Cortana, if you want to change settings, you just go to this little menu here, and you can go to your notebook, and then there's a settings menu. And one of the features there is Hey Cortana. You'll see it about the middle of that screen, and actually, as I said those words, she jumped into action. So I'm going to show you a few things about how that works. When you turn it on, you'll go through a series of, I think it's 6 phrases. You can skip that if you want, but I recommend you do it. It just takes a moment, and that helps her recognize your voice. And what that does is on Windows 10, again, this works, doesn't have to be a mobile device, but Cortana can then be activated by your voice. And at first, when I thought about this, I've used this on my phone before, not this particular function, but I've used Cortana on my phone. I thought, I'm not going to sit at my desk and talk to my PC. And amazingly enough, now I sit at my desk and I talk to my PC. Because there's so much functionality, and it has become so natural for me to interact with Cortana in that way. So for example, I can say, "Hey Cortana, what's my schedule today?"
You have speaking on panel at West Sound Technology Association at Holsbo City Hall from 5 o'clock to 8 p.m.
So hopefully you could hear that. I can't actually tell what you guys are hearing. If you can't hear it, somebody please pop up in the Q&A section to let me know that you're not able to hear things from the computer. But Cortana popped up in red, told me that she found 7 events on my schedule today, and then told me what my next thing was. So somebody said they didn't hear that. So let me try that one more time. And I'll throw these headphones next to the microphone here, so hopefully you can hear this. Hey Cortana, what's my schedule today?
I'm finding 7 events today. Here they are. I see speaking on panel at West Sound Technology Association at Holsbo City Hall coming up next from 5 o'clock to 8 p.m.
So there we go. So that's a little bit about how Cortana works. I'm not going to keep holding the headphones up to the microphone, but just so you can hear the voice. But there are other functions that I can use as well. For example, if I'm taking a flight, I'm flying to New York on Sunday. If I were leaving today, I could say, "Hey Cortana, is Alaska Airlines Flight 14 on time?"
To Newark is on time, departing at 4:05 p.m. locally. Traffic is light. It'll take an hour and 28 minutes to drive to the airport.
Okay, so I did have to hold it up because that's just way too cool that, it comes up, not only does it tell me that it's on time, tells me that traffic is light between me and the airport, and tells me how long it's going to take me to get to the airport from where I am currently. So that's all fine and dandy. What about some other things? Basic things you can do with Cortana if you don't have experience with it are things like adding reminders. You can even do math. Hey Cortana, how many megabytes are in a terabyte?
1 terabyte is 1 billion megabytes.
So there we go. 1 terabyte is 1 million megabytes is what she said. Somebody threw in the Q&A that we have different schedules according to Cortana on my machine, and it depends on, probably depends on your location. And it is interesting that my voice maybe triggered Hey Cortana on somebody else's machine. I think that was one of the gaffes from the Xbox voice interaction. And then, of course, we have all kinds of functionality we can do with reminders and things of that nature. So we can get reminded about simple things like, remind me to call so-and-so at 4 p.m. You can also do more complex things like, say, remind me to tell Harry about how the webinar went next time I talk to him, and then when I get a phone call from Harry, that reminder will then pop up so I can remember when I'm interacting with that person. Also works on location. If you have a mobile device that has GPS in it, you can say, remind me to do this next time I get home or when I get to work. And because Cortana is cloud-based and storing the settings in my account, when I transfer to my mobile device, then I get those same reminders will pop up on my mobile device or on my Windows 10 device. And as Windows Phone moves to Windows 10, that experience is going to be even more seamless than it is today. So it's just fantastic use, and something that I personally, even though I love technology, didn't think would be very useful for me, but I find it's incredibly useful. You can even use it to start applications. So I can say, hey Cortana, start settings. So the Settings app I talked about in one of the previous webinars here it's one of the new modern apps, and it has most of the settings in it. I didn't show it in the other webinar. And one of the things that I like to teach people about, because Windows is updated more frequently now than it used to be, not just for security purposes, but actually adding new features and things. And so if we go into Updates and Security and we go to the Advanced Options here, you'll notice on the screen, let me grab my little laser pointer thingy, we can go to defer upgrades here. So if for some reason you wanted to prevent Windows from automatically doing upgrades, it won't stop the security updates and things like that, although you have total control over that. But if there are upgrades, new features and things that come in Windows 10, and you don't want those when they come out, when they're released to the general public, you could check this box, and then you could choose when to get those upgrades as they're released. Very useful in business if you want to keep things standardized. Maybe you're worried about compatibility and you want to go through some testing before those upgrades are put in place. And then the other thing down below here is this Get Insider Preview builds. So Microsoft with Windows 10 has really changed the development cycle, and they're developing things, then they are releasing it to a small inner circle at Microsoft within the Windows team, testing. Once they're satisfied with it, then they move it to a larger ring inside Microsoft, and that carries forward until it starts to reach the public. And that's done through Windows Insider. And if you join the Windows Insider program, which is free, then you'll get those pre-releases, and there's actually two what they call rings inside of that. One is the fast or first release ring, and they get them right out of Microsoft. They'll get those first releases. The second one gets it only after they've received some feedback from that first ring. So if you're a geek like me and you want to get the latest, greatest thing on one or more of your PCs, you can join the Insider program and get those early builds. They're incredibly stable because of the process that it goes through, but definitely not something that you would want to do on all your machines or for something that you're completely reliant on because it is pre-release software. But it's a great way to experience new features first. You might do that with a power user or a tech that is in your organization so that they can kind of test things before they happen, before they're released to general availability. The other thing you can do is, hey Cortana, start Windows feedback. So this is an application that's built into Windows 10, and it actually is one of the ways that the developers are using to make enhancements, fixes, and things like that in Windows 10. So you can go into Windows feedback, and not only can you provide feedback, you can also see what's trending in feedback and see different information. You can search feedback to see maybe you're having some problem or you'd like a new feature. You can go in there and you can search for it and see if there's other people who also want the same thing, and then you can add your 2 cents worth into it. The developers actually look at this, and there's analytics they have going on inside Microsoft to gather all of this data. So this data isn't just going into some black hole somewhere. They actually are driving feature development, fixes, and enhancements to Windows based on real customer feedback, as well as, of course, their own internal R&D and and all of that stuff. But this is a great way for you to get involved in, if there's something that you'd love to see in Windows, go in here and tell them about it, and if enough people tell them about it, they're going to include it in there. And as I said, they're going to be releasing those kinds of updates more frequently. So you might actually see it in the current version and not have to wait for Windows 11 or whatever it's going to be later on down the road. So that's a few things that I wanted to show you. Let me flip back to some slides here, and we're going to talk a little bit about identity. So identity is very important across all of these things, not only logging into Windows 10, but accessing Office 365 and other services that you might. So we have a number of identity choices here in Windows 10. We can join the computer to an Active Directory domain. That's kind of how we've done things for a very long time. That establishes trust between the device and the corporate network. Users are going to sign in using their Active Directory account. You get group policy. If you want to use Microsoft System Center products for management, you can certainly do that. That is really the traditional model that most businesses have followed for many years. It's tried and true and proven. Now we have a new thing that's been around for a few years but is gaining popularity and traction, and that is Azure Active Directory. So that's a cloud-based version of Active Directory. And you can join Windows 10 computers to Azure Active Directory, and that again establishes trust between the device and corporate resources, albeit they're cloud-based resources, things like Office 365. And then you're going to be signing into your machine using your Azure Active Directory account. You might also choose to couple that with Microsoft Intune, which is not only a way to acquire Windows, but also monitoring and management, including mobile device management, or MDM. And that becomes especially important for businesses where they have employees with lots of mobile devices, and if they're user-owned, which is kind of the next section there, which is a BYOD, a bring your own device, a user-owned device that they want to use for work. They can register with Azure Active Directory. You can do it with on-premise Active Directory, but it's a bit more complicated to set up. And that feature is called Workplace Join. Most small and mid-sized businesses, it doesn't make any sense for them to do that. But with Azure Active Directory, you can join a user's personally owned device to Azure Active Directory to establish trust between your business services and that device. And it also gives you some ability to then manage that device and make sure that information is secure, that the device has security on it, and things like that. And then, of course, if they leave the company, you can disjoin that and remove corporate data from the device. And they're going to sign in with a Microsoft account and then associate with their Azure Active Directory account. So they're going to essentially sign in with their personal account and then link the two. And, of course, you can break that link. And if you purchase Intune and want to enable mobile device management that goes beyond the basics that come in Azure Active Directory and Office 365, you can do that as well. Azure Active Directory itself comes with Office 365, so if you already have it or you sign up for it, you automatically get Azure Active Directory. There's a free version of it that comes with Office 365. There's also a basic and a premium version that have some added features in it for a few bucks a month. I think the premium version is about $6 per user per month, and the basic is like $1 or $2 per user per month. And that lights up some additional features. But if you don't buy anything else but Office 365, you have that basic Azure Active Directory and the ability to do some light mobile device management of those things, and that's fantastic. And of course, this is a Windows 10 and beyond only thing in terms of joining to Azure Active Directory. As far as devices go, you can join pretty much any mobile device, an iOS device, an Android device, a Windows Phone device to Azure Active Directory. But as far as PCs go, it's a Windows 10 feature that's been added to add a full PC to it. This is a larger picture of how Azure Active Directory fits in. Azure Active Directory being in the middle here of this slide as authentication. On the left-hand side here, we have Windows Server Active Directory, or there are other directories out there, and you can actually link the two together. So if you already have on-premises Active Directory through Small Business Server or something, or Windows Server, you can use Azure AD Connect to connect those two, and then the identity will flow through from your business server on into the cloud. If you don't need to have that on-premise server anymore, you could transition solely to the cloud-based Azure Active Directory. That also enables things like self-service password reset, single sign-on to not only Microsoft services like Office 365, Azure, Intune, but also to third-party software as a service. So there are more than 2,500. Last time I looked, which was a couple days ago, there were 2,588 software as a service applications or services that you could turn on single sign-on. And what that means is essentially that the user signs in with their Office 365 or Azure Active Directory username and password, and then they'll automatically be able to sign in to these other services. One of the benefits to that, aside from the user productivity standpoint of having to remember all these different passwords, is it gives you as a business control over them signing into those applications, so you can easily take that away from them should they leave, or create a role, for example, maybe a salesperson who needs access to certain applications in addition to Office 365, and by adding them as a salesperson, then they'll automatically be able to log in to all of those things that they need to, and if they change roles or leave the company, very easy to turn all that stuff off and manage it. So simplified management, better user experience, and it's all included. Let's talk here for a moment, and I know we don't have a ton of time left, so we're going to go through these last few slides fairly quickly. Upgrade path from Windows 7 or Windows 8. This slide shows you what edition you have, where you would go to. So Starter, Home Basic, and Home Premium. From Windows 7, go to Windows 10 Home. Win 7 Pro and Ultimate, go to Win 10 Pro. Windows Phone 8.1 will go to Windows 10 Mobile when it's released. Windows 8.1, 8.1 Pro, Windows 8.1 goes to Windows 10 Home, and 8.1 Pro and 8.1 Pro for students both go to Pro. Notice the Enterprise editions, if you have them, are not on here. That's because you buy them through volume licensing, so talk to your volume licensing vendor or your IT pro about how to upgrade those. Those are done completely separate. The ones up on top until July 28, 29 of this year, that upgrade's free, so definitely take advantage to that. Windows 10 editions, Consumer versus Enterprise edition. So in Windows 10 we have Home, Pro, Enterprise, and Education. Enterprise and Education are very similar to each other. Obviously one's geared towards academia and priced accordingly. Enterprise really geared for larger mid-sized businesses and above, unless you have some specific requirements that might lead you down that road, like extra regulatory requirements or security that you need on the devices themselves. Experiences that you will find in all editions are a customizable start menu. So the new start menu with the live tiles that we talked about in the first session, you can resize that and change the tiles that are there. Windows Defender and Firewall, Windows Defender being anti-malware, antivirus solution, is built into Windows 10. Fast startup is built into all editions, so if you just close your laptop and open it back up again, it starts very, very quickly within a second or two, depending on the hardware, but it's pretty darn fast. TPM support, if you have the hardware, that is for doing security over the device, things like encrypting the hard drive and whatnot. Battery saver, which is really taken from the mobile world and is fantastic on the on tablets as well, because when your battery gets low, it'll start to pare down features so that your battery will last longer. Goes into battery saver mode. Cortana is not available in all markets, so if you're international, check with Microsoft to see if it's available. But Cortana is available on all the different editions. Windows Hello is available on all editions, but it does require special hardware support, so the device has to support Windows Hello to do that. Snap Assist and virtual desktops, we talked a little bit about in one of the other sessions. That's available on all of them as well. And Continuum, the switch between tablet and PC mode, the Microsoft Edge browser, and of course Windows Update. Business experiences that are not in home, this is why I really recommend that you look at using the Pro Edition or better for business. Joining a domain or Azure AD, those things that I just talked about in terms of security, management, and trust, those are not available on the Home Edition. So that right there is one reason why you would absolutely want everybody to be using Pro or above. Group policy, which is a way to manage things. Remote desktop, very useful. If you have a physical desktop machine and maybe want to connect to it from home, that's only available in the Pro Edition. Hyper-V, if you're into virtualization, is only available in Pro and above. You can't upgrade from Home to Enterprise. I did learn recently, I believe you can do an upgrade from Home to Pro to Enterprise, so a double hop. You can upgrade from Home to Pro, and then so you'd have to buy a Pro license, and then if you bought an Enterprise license, you could put that key in and reboot one more time and actually get up to enterprise. But you can't go straight from home to enterprise. Windows Store for Business I talked about in one of the other webinars this week, so if you want to learn more about that, you can look that up, but that's only available in the business editions. Dynamic provisioning, talked about that yesterday. BitLocker, which is hard drive encryption, and Trusted Boot, which is another security function, and then Windows Update for Business. Those are definitely business features, although hard drive encryption may be something that you want to consider. It might be worth having Pro, even if you're a home user, to gain that, especially if you've got a mobile device that maybe is storing sensitive data on it. Things that are not in Pro that are only in the Enterprise or Education Edition, those are Direct Access, Windows To Go Creator, App Locker, Start Screen Control via Group Policy, Credential, and Device Guard. Direct Access is being able to access corporate resources that are inside the corporate firewall, maybe a server that's on premise at the office from outside of the firewall without a VPN. Great technology, very cool, but complex, especially for the small or mid-sized business. Windows To Go is a great feature where you can take a certified USB stick. You can't use just any one. It's got to be certified for it. You can load Windows onto it from your PC and then carry the USB stick with you and plug it into somebody else's computer and access your Windows and then shut it down and take the USB stick back to your office and use it there. Really neat feature and functionality. You can only create it, though, in the Enterprise Edition. App Locker is for locking down applications. Surprise, surprise. Start Screen Control via Group Policy is a way for corporate to manage what's on that start screen, start menu. And Credential and Device Guard are other cyber attack security measures that can be put in place to protect the devices, applications, and usernames and passwords and things on the enterprise network. So that said, I am going to switch over now to Q&A here and see how we're doing. I'm happy to hang out. I know we're running a bit over time, but I'm happy to keep going here and answer any questions. So if you want to hang out for the Q&A, please do. If you need to leave, please go to the SMB Nation website. Check them out. Great organization. I'm very privileged to have them invite me to do these webinars and to speak on the roadshow. And certainly if we're coming to a city near you on the 2016 roadshow, you'll find information on their website. And go there, sign up. Love to meet you in person and give you more information and answer any questions you guys might have. I also threw my contact information up there. So, if you have any questions, feel free to use me as a resource. I don't always get back to things in a very timely manner depending on my travel schedule, my work schedule, but I do try to be a resource for folks out there. So feel free to send me an email or send me a tweet or connect with me on LinkedIn. Somebody asked about getting slides. This webinar is being recorded and that will be published within a few days, maybe up to 7 days. SMB Nation will publish that and you can flip through the recording of that for slide information and things of that nature. So the first question that's hanging out there is, do you know of any progress on the updates to OneDrive for Business Client? I know they were working on things, just have some customers that constantly have to rebuild the local cache on folders. Any insight on statuses? As OneDrive for Business is really based on an acquisition that Microsoft did years ago of a company called Groove, or a product called Groove. And it has evolved over several years and had a lot of investment into it. Synchronizing files is tricky business, making sure that they stay in sync. The addition of OneDrive for Business that's out now, I rarely have any instances where users are having trouble synchronizing files. Occasionally, even I will get one file that for some reason it just won't synchronize, and I don't have to rebuild my entire local cache. Usually what I do is I hop into SharePoint or my OneDrive for Business and drag the file from my computer in there. With the newer versions of SharePoint, you can actually drag files right into the browser, so you don't have to go through any upload process, and it'll throw it in there. In a rare instance, maybe it's a Word document or something, I end up opening up a brand new Word doc, copying and pasting my stuff into it, and then saving it back, and that takes care of that. So as far as I know, it works really well, about 98–99% of the time, and fairly easy to work around the couple little things that you run into. It's definitely not designed for syncing everything, and you want to be careful how many items you have. That I know they're working on in terms of limitation and how you organize things, but you don't want to have more than 20,000 items in terms of synchronization. And if you just think about that in your mind for a second, trying to keep 20,000 items in sync is fairly complex. And so if you don't want to synchronize the whole world to your computer, just synchronize what you need. And OneDrive for Business, I don't have anywhere near that. I also keep my personal stuff in my personal OneDrive, so I don't throw my photos in my corporate account. I don't keep all of my personal stuff in there, and that also helps me to separate those things. Another question, how does Windows 10 handle both a home 365 account and a business 365 account? Can you be logged into both at once? So there are some different scenarios where this may work and where it may not. For example, the Office applications are designed per user, whereas in the past when we bought Office, it was what we call a device license. So you bought one copy of Office, you installed it on the PC, and then anyone who logged into that PC could use those applications. With Office 365, it works differently. It's tied to the user. So when I log in, it's going to want my Office 365 credentials in order to use Word and Excel and Outlook. And it's not designed for someone else to log into that PC and also access those applications. There is a thing called shared computer activation if you're in a workplace environment where maybe you have shift workers or a workstation that multiple people need to access. There is provision for that. We actually on our website have some information about shared computer activation. I don't have the link in my head, but go to mgtechgroup.com and search for shared computer activation. I think it's in the private cloud section. There's not a ton of menus up there, so I'm sure you can find it. Or just get on Microsoft.com and look for shared computer activation with Office 365 if you have that scenario. But back directly to that question, so if I have the Office applications through my business account, you can certainly sign in there. And then if you have a home account, you could sign in maybe in your browser to one of the home functions that you're accessing there. But you're going to have to switch back and forth between your logins depending on what you're doing. There's not a really great way to have you doing both. There is through Azure Active Directory, which is beyond the scope of this topic, but I mentioned single sign-on. There is a way to link your Office 365 business account, your Azure Active Directory account, with your personal account, and I use that for accessing, for example, Outlook.com for my personal account versus my Office 365 account. And so when I go into the Office 365 portal, portal.office.com, and I click on the App Launcher grid that I showed a few slides back, rewind if you're watching the recording, back towards the beginning, in the upper left-hand corner is kind of a grid. I'll have an app that I can click on, and that will launch Outlook.com and sign me in using my personal credentials. I don't even have to remember my credentials. It just automatically signs me in there. So I could read my personal email in a browser, and then I can have Outlook, the application, connected to my Office 365 business account. Let me scroll through some questions here. A lot of people telling me my voice is triggering Cortana on their machine because they have Hey Cortana set up. Can I talk about Media Center alternatives? Media Center was end of life, so there is no real Media Center. I'm not a media guru in terms of those kinds of things. I know there are a number of solutions out there, and I'm sure if you jump on Bing and look for Media Center Alternatives or something like that, you'll find some reviews on the popular websites that do reviews of technology and things like that. That'll give you that. Basic media stuff is there. We have Groove for listening to music and whatnot. But if you're looking for that old or the previous Media Center experience that was built into Windows, that you need to you're going to need to find an alternative solution to that, and I don't have a great recommendation. That's not my specialty for sure. Do you have a link to a good doc or set of docs to start utilizing Azure AD from a workgroup environment? Mostly Windows 7 Pro machines, but some Windows 10. So Azure Active Directory is only supported on Windows 10 and newer. So the first thing you would do is upgrade those Windows 7 machines to Windows 10. If they're on Win 7 Pro, you can upgrade to Windows 10 for free up to the end of July of this year. So definitely want to take advantage of doing that. If the company has Office 365, they already have Azure AD, as I showed before in the Admin Center. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, I guess I can probably flip back to that slide here. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. This slide right here. So this is the Office 365 Admin Center. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, which I can't do because it's just a screenshot, on the left-hand side here, you'll see a thing at the very bottom that says Azure Active Directory. Click on that. It'll walk you through a little process of activating your Azure account. And again, it comes free with Office 365. It's just built in. And then you can learn about adding machines to Azure Active Directory. I don't have specific docs. technet.microsoft.com has all the technical details and things of that nature. You could also talk to a company like what I work for, MG Technology Group. We're a cloud services provider, so we work both with Office 365 and Azure, and we could provide you with some support and guidance on doing that. We work mostly with IT professionals and partners, so if you're an IT pro and you're looking at consulting to a business, that's really where our sweet spot is. We also might be able to help connect you with an IT pro if you're not if you're just an end organization. And how do you connect with me on LinkedIn? So on the little contact slide, let's see if I can zip to the end here, testing my PowerPoint capabilities in terms of presenting and being on mic and all that. So connect with me on LinkedIn. It's GN Thompson. So I believe if you go to LinkedIn/GN Thompson, you will find me, or probably search by my email address. If you really have trouble finding me, shoot me an email and I'll reply back to you, and there's a link in my signature block so we can connect on LinkedIn. So with that said, we're over time here by about 10 or 11 minutes, and I want to thank everybody for the great questions. This session really came out of, back in November, we did a series of 2 webinars and had planned a third and had some content, but we got so many questions during the first and second that we weren't able to get to, that we really rolled those into the third webinar, and the bulk of this content came out of those questions. So fantastic to have more. Again, I look forward to seeing any of you on the 2016 Roadshow. Just very honored and privileged to be a part of that. Thanks to SMB Nation for inviting me to present. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to get back to you. My schedule is a little crazy over the next couple of months because I'm going to be traveling a lot on the tour, but I will try to get back to you guys as quickly as possible. And if you're interested, certainly take a look at our website. We can help you out with Office 365 and Azure. We have data centers in Seattle and Portland, so not only do we support Microsoft hosted services, but we also have services that we host as well. We're Microsoft Azure certified as part of the Cloud OS network and a Microsoft certified CSP, Cloud Solutions Provider. Thanks again. Thanks to SMB Nation, and I'll see you guys on the road.